If you want to build a wildly profitable and impactful business, I'm going to share with you what's been super helpful for me, especially in this last couple of years, because I have gone from like not having the business that I wanted, something that was stressing me out, something that was constantly on this revenue roller coaster where I would have a lot of leads sometimes and call bookings and clients coming in, and then some months it would be completely crickets. I would have an empty calendar and I would be stressed the heck out, wondering like, what the heck do I need to do? And so I've gone through the extremes, and I'm making this video in hopes that it'll be helpful. Some of my lessons and insights that I can, hand over to you on a silver platter, maybe. That's not really silver, but it's my hands giving my hands to your hands. Hopefully, that you could shortcut some of the stress and the headache, and you could take some of these insights that I have and apply them into your business. Where do I start? Where do I start? Right now, when I was first born, down in Miami Beach. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna go back that far. But here's the thing, right? So for context, I spent about 8 years as a firefighter, and I thought I was gonna be doing that for the rest of my life. And it all began there because I don't know if you know about the fire station firefighters, at least where I worked in North Florida. It was all about like, dude, we ate so much and we got so lazy. We had to train a lot, but it ended up making us lazy because we trained so much doing stuff that we ate even more, right? So over the course of a handful of years, I put on like 53 pounds. I was so out of shape at that time. And long story short, I got electrocuted in this house fire, right? I was doing a search and rescue, and we had thought the electricity was off. Like the engineer is what they call people that manage the trucks, had shut the power off, but the people that lived at this house, they were stealing electricity from their neighbors. They were literally wiring it through. So I ended up getting electrocuted during the search and rescue, and I was hospitalized for 3 days and 3 nights. And this is like a massive like shift, epiphany, like God moment in my life, to where this doctor looking down on me was like, son, you're way too young, because I was in my low 20s at the time. He's like, you're way too young to be this unhealthy and this out of shape. And so, man, I was just like, okay, I got to do something. So I spent the next like, after recovery, it took me a while to recover from that, but after recovery, I ended up losing weight, and then I got so inspired. My crewmates actually got inspired by me, and I was inspired, so I started to train them, and then they started to lose weight. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to help people before they get to like the worst of the worst, and they're like, doing meth and all these drugs and all the things that we had to see as firefighters. And so I ended up leaving the fire department, and I started to go and do personal training. I worked in big box gyms, I did in-home training, I ran boot camps on the side, all kinds of stuff. And I realized like it's hard to make money in a big box gyms. Like they don't pay you a lot. So I quickly realized that in order for me to actually make a living, I had to go out there and do my own thing. And so my own little thing, it started as like me getting clients from Groupon. I don't know if you remember, like they're probably still a thing, like Groupon and Living Social, but I had like a $49 Groupon, and I started to fill up this boot camp. And within just a few months, due to word of mouth from the people coming from the Groupons and Groupon, I ended up getting like I think 30 to 50 clients or something like that. And so I was packing out these boot camps. And I was like, I was living the dream, man. I was making a few $1,000s a month, and I was like, this is awesome. I had no kids, no responsibilities at the time. And the city where I was down in South Florida, they ended up coming out. They're like, dude, you can't be in this park with this many people. They're like, we can find you a spot, but you have to give us 30% of the profits that you make from this business endeavor. And I wasn't super savvy at business back then. This is a long time ago, but I knew that 30% was a lot. And so I was like, I don't think I can survive. Coming back to the quote unquote hook of this video, how to build a wildly profitable and impactful coaching business, that definitely wasn't going to be profitable. So I was like, I can't do that. So again, long story short, I ended up finding this hockey rink that I used to play hockey on back when I was a kid. It was so run down, and it had a sinkhole in the middle of it. It was just abandoned. It was run down. The city even wanted to touch it because they were like, this is a liability. Like we can't, it's going to cost them a lot of money. And so I ended up partnering with this soccer company who had already put money into converting one of the hockey rinks into a soccer field. And I was like, hey, what about we do this together? We'll convert this, I'll turn it into a gym. I own it, but I will pay you guys, basically as a sublease. And they agreed. And so we ended up striking this deal, and we fixed the hockey rink, and we turned it into a turfed out field. And I had this idea. I was like, I want to make this South Florida's first, in at the I think it still is, or it was only, outdoor fitness center. So we got equipment. We bought one of those old storage containers that you see down at like ports, and we filled it with like barbells and dumbbells and bench presses. And we had like a way I got this like massive wagon, right? We were able to like pull all the weights out every day with the wagon, and it was so cool. We had a ninja gym out there, and it was awesome. And we ended up building that up to like around 300 members. That was our base, served thousands of people. And it definitely wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I'm not, I'm skipping over some of like the struggle and the heartbreak, but just know that there was lots of struggle, there was lots of heartbreak, there was literally blood, sweat, and actual tears out there building that thing. But through that trial, like I learned a lot about marketing, about sales, about client delivery. In fact, at one point, the gym was doing so well after years of like really struggling. We finally kind of quote unquote made it, and one of the members, her husband, came out and he was like, "Hey man, I really like what you're doing here. I'd love to invest some money into this. What do you think we can do? Maybe open more locations." And I was like, "Yeah." So we ended up going the franchise route, and so we started to we hired this franchise consulting firm out of Miami, and they were like this high rolling firm. I mean, you go in, it was just like if you picture like what a big consulting firm in South Miami would be like, it was that, right? And we ended up going through the whole process, spent about 80 grand doing it, and did it all. We were ready to franchise. I was out there like Ray Kroc trying to sell fitness centers, and we had definitely some interest, but honestly we just got beat up in the franchise market. All this to say, it didn't work out. And this kind of leads me to like really and I'm sharing all this with you for a reason, because I want you to know that like there's the context to what I'm sharing with you, to where like it's not that like I just stumbled upon like a highly profitable business because I thought it was cool, right? And I was like, oh no, like you go through it as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and it's important to find your passion, right? But all this to say, it was 2017, no, 2016. Yeah, no, 2017 February. My daughter was born. She's about to turn 8, and at the time, the franchise thing wasn't working out. We were bleeding money, man. I mean, we were in the red. I was 45K in debt because I had to take out loans and credit cards just to try to keep the franchise business alive. Plus, my main location was suffering a little bit without me being there constantly. you know, it was a hot mess. And so I remember one day just sitting in my truck, just freaking crying, like bawling tears. Was gripping my steering wheel with like all like my might, staring in the rearview mirror, just feeling like a failure as a man, as a father, as just like a human. And I had this idea, and I believe God gave this to me. And He was just like, go and speak. Like, just go and speak. And so I decided to go out and talk. My first talk, I talked to children about, I think I was dressed as like a broccoli or something like that. And I was talking about vegetables. Then I got into the Chamber of Commerce. I started speaking. And then at that time, Facebook had just recently released the live video feature. And I started to like, go live all of the time. And this really led me to this whole concept of like, man, like I can make money online, right? And then right around that time, fast forward a couple of years, I after years of trying, I finally got on to the TV show American Ninja Warrior. And anybody can do it, right? It's a, technically they can submit for it. It's a, you don't have to be special to do it. You just like find when they're doing it and submit a 3-minute video, and you have to share your story, your passions, your not your passion, but show your energy and your skill sets. What I was looking for. And during that time, like as I kept failing to get on, I asked the producer. I was like, "Hey, dude, how can I like help guarantee I get on the show?" And he said, your story, and your skills and your energy. Those things matter so much. The more you can make them unique, the more you can make them resonate with the audience and relevant to the audience, the easier it's going to be for you to get on. And I took those principles, and it's been so true when it comes to actually marketing a business and to really building a business, both on the front end and marketing and on the back end and delivery, because those same principles do apply. is building a narrative for people and allowing people to be able to like live in that narrative, to be able to go from their struggle to their transformation. And so around 2019, I felt super confident. So I launched an online fitness business because I wanted to be home with my kid at the time. We were about to have another kid. So I was like, I definitely want to be home more. And we ended up making the gym profitable again. I sold it, but it was like this was like right at COVID now. Right. I launched my online business September 2019. It's like I saw the future or something. And uh, we didn't have much traction at the time in it, but 2020 hit. I basically fire sold it, didn't make much from it, but I was just like happy to get out from under it. And to one of my trainers at the time, who just recently ended up shutting it down, sadly enough. The online business took off pretty quickly. Like we had a lot of trust. People just trusted the human Jason. So like they bought into it really quickly, and I ended up, being able to create my first like $10,000 to $12,000 a month pretty fast. And we were able to grow between like 15 to 20, 25,000 a month relatively quickly. But after a few months, like I started to really struggle, man. Like I was posting content, I was DMing people. I mean, now we're in the midst of like 2020 going into 2021. And while I was doing okay, you know, by most people's standards, like it was a struggle. Like it was so I think what was killing me was the inconsistency. I was like slowly dying inside. I was so stressed out. I was so burned out. I was always overwhelmed. I was overthinking, and you know, like as I alluded to earlier, some of my some weeks or months I had plenty of leads in people coming in. My content was getting decent engagement, um, but like I couldn't seem to like keep any consistency. And so like some months I would do okay, and then other months it would be like $3,000. Man, it was just like it was so up and down, right? And I shared in a previous video. This is like one of the things that like really turned me on to like focusing on like retention and reoccurring revenue, and we can get to that here in just a second. But the real key that I learned is all about really two things. So I've shared a lot of context, and I'm hoping that that gave you some value and resonated in some way with you. But I want to share with you like some of the things that I've gone through and some of the insights and epiphanies that I've learned. But it really comes down, if I had to boil it down into like a few steps here, is the first big thing from the marketing side, right? Because we're talking about a wildly profitable and impactful coaching business. Is the first thing is your messaging matters more than you think. Okay? I see so many people that they think that running ads is the thing, or posting content, or the VSL funnels, or call booking this, or whatever. It's like the strategy is important, and we're going to get to that, but not without the messaging. You see, people are doing reels these days and they're like trying to go viral, and they're just trying to get as many people as possible, but they're getting a lot of the wrong people that don't resonate with their messaging. And so really dialing in your messaging, making sure that you are speaking to the symptoms, the complaints that your ideal avatar, your dream client has, right? The actions that they're taking, the beliefs that they currently have that are, they think are keeping them stuck. Really getting clear on like the specific and tangible and concreteness of what's going on with them and what their desired dream outcome is. The more specific, tangible, and concrete you can get, the more you're going to be able to stand out to them, and the more your marketing, like your content, whatever you want to do, is going to work for you. So that's so freaking important, is nailing that down. Secondly, you got to focus more on inbound marketing. A lot of people are stuck in the stone ages of like, God forbid, cold DMing. I mean, if you ever see me cold DMing, just shoot me. Basically, I'll never cold DM. It's just, that's nuts, right? Now, outside of the extent of like, if I connected somebody on Instagram or Facebook, I'll probably send a message of like, hey, it's great to connect with you, but I'm never ever doing cold DMing. But even like, these outbound methods of like, trying to just like do lead magnets or offer posts or run challenges. It's like so challenging to get people in because it's like people are the market's more sophisticated to this stuff. And so you want to focus more on inbound marketing. And this is why once you have your messaging really dialed, you want to plug those words, plug that messaging into an effective content system. And inbound marketing is basically saying that you're going to put stuff out there that gets people to DM you or gets people to opt in for things, right? So they're coming to you. It's based upon client attraction principles around psychology and storytelling. And I don't want to make it sound complex. It's not complex. It really is simple. But you got to be able to tell your story in a compelling way, right? When you could tell your story in a way that like helps bridge the gap for people from where they're stuck to where they want to be, whether it's your story, client story, really helpful to be able to do that on a marketing front. And then secondly, a system. You know, if you're just spraying and praying and hoping that it's going to land, you're going to be stuck in inconsistent land forever. At least from my experience, that is true. But when you have a system, and this is what I teach my clients, it's how to like actually put together a predictable system to not just like post random content, but to have a methodical way where we're posting certain content at certain times to be able to lead people into some kind of long form content where you can then literally just focus on like delivery of the content where you have a good hook, you have a good story, you have good insights, you have a good call to action, and that creates more inbound traffic. It creates more inbound leads in bulk, right? When you could do this once or twice a month, it constantly feeds your business, right? So this is like the really big key from a marketing front. Does that make sense? If you have questions, let me know. From there, you want to make sure you just have a nice conversion system in place. And that could be maybe you are booking calls with your inbound traffic, or maybe you have them and you're selling the DMs, or you're selling via workshop or master classes. I basically teach people all of these ways because I've done all of these ways. So this depends on the person's skills and what kind of model they want to use in their business. And so those are the big keys, right? Your messaging, the strategy obviously does matter, and then creating a system around it, it makes it to where it's consistent and predictable on like the actual lead generation, inbound lead traffic, and client acquisition. And then from there, we want to make sure that we have the right kind of delivery model. And so the old way is, and I just talked about this, I believe, in a previous video, is so I won't go too in depth because we can link the video up. The old model is selling something super high ticket, right? Trying to collect paid in fulls, and then selling something cheaper on the back end. And while that absolutely does still work, because, honestly, everything will work always, it is slowly dying. Like slowly dying. People are less receptive. And what happens is, at least based upon like my experience and, my own business and talking with lots of other business owners, that it actually lowers your client LTV, your customer lifetime value, meaning like the amount of money you make from a client or customer long term. So say you sell them something for 5K in the front end, and then you try to sell them cheaper on the back end, like just based upon my experience of the world, because I've done this too, you will actually keep people for shorter amount of time and you'll collect less from them, right? And it kind of like feels a little backwards at first, but that's what I've experienced to be true. And versus if you do what I call a tiered offer. And so a tiered offer, if you think about a triangle, right? The very top of the tier could be like one to one, or I know I work with a lot of coaches that do like that are like hormone specialists, and they help people with like hormones, women, stuff like that, right? And they'll offer like labs, or they'll offer more basically in like a higher tier, but people pay more money, right? So for me, it's one to one. Like I'll do one to one consulting with people, and then there's a second tier. Same offer. See, this is the secret. This is the key. Same offer, right? But there's a lesser tier. So maybe they get less, right? Maybe they don't get labs in that example. Or in my case, they don't get a private channel with me and regular one to ones. They get an allotted amount of one to ones, and then they get access to me via a community, right? And for some people, that's fine. That's all they're looking for. They just want some direction, some guidance. But some people are like, I want the one to one. I really like resonate with that, and they align with that, right? And so you give people options, but it's one tier. And the way we've done it is, yeah, you could still do paid in fulls. That's fine, right? But like, give people the option to where they can stay in your world, and they can actually afford to do it, but without you undercutting. See, the old model of high ticket then low ticket, or high ticket then mid ticket, we've seen that it's a lower LTV over time, versus if you price yourself appropriately at the beginning, right? To where you can have the reoccurring model built in to your tier system, right? It allows people to live in your world for longer. And in my opinion, or at least what I strive to do, is I want to put as much time and attention to clients as possible, right? I want to work with people like for years, because I love seeing the transformation. I love being a part of people's world, and being and able to help them go from point A to point B to point C to all the way to point Z, right? And take them, like, it's like I look at myself as like I'm climbing the mountains, and I'm just leading other people that are like, Jason, I kind of want to climb those mountains too. And I'm like, yo, no problem, like I'll show you how to climb. And so as long as you're steps ahead of your clients, and they vibe with you, and you want to be the leader for them, you should absolutely make your offer to where it's easy for people to stay, right? Easy for people to stay and pay and even refer, right? This is in part like how I've been able to keep retention so high, to where our retention will range, but typically between 90 to 95%, and really keeps reoccurring revenue at a nice level. So I would advise something like that, right? And then really on the back end, there's not much else you need to do. Like, as long as you have a roadmap and a pathway for people, say you're in weight loss and you're helping people initially maybe lose 30 pounds, right? Well, what's next, right? There's a lot more to health and fitness than just 30 pounds, right? So it's like, how can you just show them that there's a roadmap that you could take them down, right? Like for me, like I could show people how to like really step into their gifts, their talents, and build a business that's wildly profitable, right? And a lot of times, like, people are like, "Hey, I want to get to 20K per month." I'm like, do you really feel that, like, that's what God's called you to be, or whatever you believe in? Do you really believe that your calling on this earth is to make 20K a month and help, 100 women, 100 people, 100 of your avatar? I don't know. I believe you're called for more. And this is why, like, we're building what's called the School of Impact, right? And it's basically a school that I've been in the process of building, and it's a school for misfit entrepreneurs like me, right? That are like, hey, I really want to be able to grow and impact a lot of people, and I want to be able to help a lot of people. And I look at, like, at least my vision as like the school is like the, an X-Men. Professor Xavier has the school for mutants, and then there's the X-Men that like are helping the mutants, learn how to use their mutant powers. I look at that as like what I do. I look at myself, you may laugh at this, but this is just like my vision, right? I look at myself as Professor Xavier, and I am forming X-Men, and I'm helping people to really develop their unique gifts and talents, and their message, so that it's able to truly build that profitable, impactful business in a way that's fun for them, in a way that feeds their life, that sets their soul on fire, man. Like, that's fires me up. And so when you can really tap into your version of that in your business, it's going to help a lot, because people want to move forward in visions. People that join my vision, they believe in it. Like, they want to lead their own. Like, I believe God put me on this earth to help the helpers, right? I help people that help people, right? So I help the leaders lead people better. You know what I'm saying? And so what's yours? Like, what are you put on this earth to do? And if you're still trying to figure that out, that's cool. This may be going deep for you. I don't know. But what I do know is that the more vision that you can have, and the more that you can show people that the top of the mountain doesn't actually end, it keeps going, because your potential never ends, and you can literally become the greatest version of yourself. And then you could teach people. And I think that's where true fulfillment comes in, is contribution, right? As you learn stuff, you then teach it, right? So as you learn, I shouldn't say as you learn stuff, as you learn, apply, and gain experience, you could teach people what you're learning. And so as long as you're not stopping growing, then you can constantly be sharing that stuff with your clients. And this shows people that, like, hey, the path keeps opening up. Like, every time they step, there's more path for them. And that's what people are looking for, right? They're looking for somebody that they can know, that they can like, they can trust, and that they can trust to be their guide along this journey, in whatever field or, niche or, thing that you're in. You can help guide those people. So I hope that's super helpful for you. But those are just some of my thoughts on at least how I go about building a wildly profitable coaching business. Because again, I've had times where it's not been profitable. I've had times to where it's been a real struggle, and I constantly get realigned to this, right? To where you want to make sure you're sharing what you're passionate about, because your passion will evolve. You want to really focus in on dialing in your messaging, on knowing how to share your story, on having a really succinct and predictable content system, so you can constantly get leads and clients at least coming in, right? you want to make sure, and I didn't add this earlier, but I love having like some kind of wait list so you can constantly build up demand for your stuff versus being open all the time. And then delivery, you can have like a tiered offer to where you can have different tiers, different levels of access for people to work with you, and you can make the pricing to where it's affordable. It increases your lifetime value of a client, so you can work with people for years. And then for you to be able to like really keep people, it's growing on yourself. It's sharing your vision. It's allowing people to step into your vision and become more of themselves. And in turn, that's going to help you grow. It's going to help you evolve. It's going to help you become more of what who you are meant to be. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions for me, let me know. If you found this video helpful, please click subscribe and leave a comment letting me know what your biggest takeaway was. As always, remember, your message matters now more than ever has before. Don't be afraid to speak it. Be seen, be heard, and be impactful.